Howdy. It is Wednesday, and everybody knows what Wednesday means. It's the inner journey with me, your host, Robert Morales, with your co-host, the fabulous, the wonderful, the something
or other.
Something bigger than life can ever expect. Miss Mary, sometimes Heather, Van Alstyne. Yeah, there he is. She is. So, Robert Morales, RCA Network, coming to you every Wednesday with the Inner Journey with my co-host, Mary Van Alstyne, talking about emotions, feelings, the things that bring us together, the things that separate us, everything else in between, because it all relates back to who we are in business, but also who we are as people. And the more we conquer and control and figure out these emotions, the more strength we'll have in life, I do believe.
Yes.
With my co-host.
Yes. And
she's very knowledgeable. She knows everything about
Robert
emotions.
Morales.
Yes. Oh, shit.
We are coming upon the new year, so are you ever going to change?
You know, I have doubts, but then I also have optimism that I will one day.
That's good. I don't think you need to change.
Oh, you don't want me to change? Oh.
I think all we need to is to grow, all of us.
Yeah, we need to grow. But growth also means change too. So,
growth, change, semantics battle. Yes.
we battle over words. You know, the meanings and the. But you know, I think what it comes down to when choosing a word like happiness, which is we'll get into today, it's really what it means to you.
Exactly. And the feeling that it invokes inside of you.
And
yourself.
So it's almost like a seed.
Yeah.
Once you plant that word seed in you, and whatever belief you put behind it, it'll just grow into whatever you decide it to be.
Well, and that's why I think it's so important that people really focus on the words that they choose to use, because sometimes we don't understand that certain words make us feel a certain way, you know, and so to start paying attention to that is huge, because you start realizing how it's making you feel. And I've noticed over the past few years, I used a lot of words that were very limiting, and I didn't realize it.
Like what?
An example would be that I write a lot of vision. I do a lot of like visualization, and I write out my vision for my life. And so I would write out my vision for a romantic relationship. And what I put was that I was in a legendary love affair. Right. And
interesting.
I started having some icky feelings around that. And one day it just dawned on me that the word affair assumed something short-lived. Right. And so I switched that up to a legendary love story. And that has completely transformed what I've created in my life. And so it's really important to pay attention to how words that you use make you feel internally.
Yeah, because if you choose a lot of negative words, then you have a lot of negative perspectives on everything and negative outlook, and then usually make negative decisions after that. So, so it's interesting, Miss.
Yes.
We decided to start the day. We talked about it a little bit before we got on, talking about resolutions, because we're at the end of the year.
Yay!
This is like end of 2021.
Bring on 2022.
No more. 2021, the whole viral wall mess.
It's been a great year.
It's all done. Maybe. I don't know.
Ups and downs and all arounds. And if you take a look at what you've been able to grow on, I think it's been a great year.
Yeah. And, and I think people tend to pick, those one or two things. They like to point their finger at one thing and say, blame that, versus really kind of going into that inner journey in themselves and deciding and figuring out what's wronging them and project outward and say, well, this year I didn't finish my goal. This year I didn't do what I needed to.
And it was because of them.
Because of that. Or because there was a lockdown.
Yeah.
There was a virus. I can't go outside.
Yeah, that's why we talk so much about getting out of that like victim mentality, right? Yeah. And taking ownership of the fact that we have the option to create and pivot and all these things where we can not have outer circumstances determine our level of success, our level of accomplishment, in life in all areas.
So do you have any, because we're talking about resolutions, did you have any goals at the beginning of the year that you're happy or satisfied with now that we're at the end of this year?
Absolutely.
I tapped into something.
Yeah, I definitely had a goal to create a beautiful relationship and a legendary love story, and that is definitely has come into my life. I also created an income goal where I was going to reach in business, and that was by a percentage of income increase, and I have surpassed that. I've created a goal to become a better mother and be more involved with my kids and their education and supporting them in that, and that has definitely started to evolve. I had a goal of completing some remodel projects in my home. that were also completed. So I set a lot of goals that I crushed this year, and yeah, I'm very happy about it. And
Do you find it's like sometimes a little bit easier to treat like your emotions and your decisions like almost like business goals, where you have like I don't know, smart goals, whatever, the specific, measurable, all that stuff. Do you find it's a little bit easier to do that rather than just kind of like accept the emotion behind it? Like, oh, this year I'm going to lose weight. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm gonna reach out there to the ether and I'll mysteriously lose weight.
you know, the funny thing is that I have a lot of goals. I do set SMART goals.
Yeah.
They have to be measurable. There has to be a time period. You know, numbers are involved, and yet some things I set those more emotional, I don't know what you call it, vague kind of goals. And I have found that even setting those vague type of goals, I tend to move more in that direction. It may not be something that I've been able to measure and say what I achieved. However, like I've had a goal before of having a more open heart, right? How do you measure that? It's not really measurable based
You do hugs, number of hugs.
Other than on like how you're feeling. Are you generally feeling more loving towards the world, you know? And so I've had those kinds of goals. Actually just had this conversation the other day. So but I do the things that I can measure. I'll put you know, timelines and things like that, and put them very measurable. Like I want to create this amount of revenue within this time period. And so I really just kind of go with I mean, if it's more of an emotional goal, sometimes there's not a way to measure it, you know.
Do you beat yourself up if you don't meet those goals?
I used to a lot more than I do nowadays. I tend to be one of those people that people have noticed can be very hard on themselves, and I've been working on that. However, I celebrate everything now. Every little win in my life, I celebrate now. So that really helps. And you just jumped into one of my tips, so.
Well, we're getting to tips. So if you hang on there, we're talking about
tips.
We're talking tips.
Tips. That's what I said.
We're talking about resolutions. So if you guys have resolutions, you know, go ahead and make a comment on what your New Year's resolution is. Yeah. We would like to talk about it. I think we have a few on the list that I wrote down. I think the common resolutions for every year are. The big one is weight loss, right?
Weight loss and health.
January 1st, I'm going to lose weight, and I'm gonna look like a model. I don't know.
The Rock.
Yeah, The Rock is a very prominent. You know, if I slim down a little bit, I could look like The Rock.
Yeah, you can.
He's more muscly.
You've already got the hair.
I got the hair.
Hairdo.
I did the hair just because I wanted to be like The Rock. So weight loss is number one, I think, for the resolutions of any year. Second is to find love, right? Mm-hmm, yeah. Another one I had is to make do with family, especially if there's some negative things within your family to make amends.
Improving relationships, yeah.
Yes, of course. Career change is another one I think is on the resolution list. Yeah. And then somewhere in the middle, somewhere is money.
Oh, somewhere in the middle. I think that one's up at the top.
Is
usually.
That primary? Well, it's not the weight loss. So what would you say? You say weight loss is more, or making money is
I would
top?
say weight loss is up there. I can't say.
Yeah.
I would say the weight, not necessarily weight loss, but getting healthy. Right. That's getting healthy, and then money would be a second or
It's
third.
not about being healthy. It's about losing weight. It's about looking hot. You want to go back to like that 18-year-old body. Well, for me, I was a little chubby, but
I wouldn't want to go to my 18-year-old body. Just saying.
Why?
Well, I was a lot heavier then.
Oh.
Yeah, and unhealthy in general. Yeah.
Well, whenever you felt skinny body,
which is now. This is my prime time.
So I mean, in terms of resolutions, I think that's kind of on the list. If anybody has a different one, if you can list that out there.
Yeah, those are the major categories, I think, and sometimes I think there's a spirituality is a good one. I'm going to start going to church. I'm going to start reading the Bible. I'm going to start, doing yoga. That's another one I think that we forgot.
But why so the beginning of every year. There's like this delay for change, right? Mm-hmm. We say, January 1st is the day I'm going to start whatever.
And then the week between Christmas and New Year's is like free for all, right? Like, let's get it all in.
I'm going to eat those cupcakes that are in the fridge before, the January 1st.
Yeah.
I'm going to go have a little extra cornbread from Bobby Q's because that's good cornbread.
Yeah.
I'm gonna overdo it because January 1st I'm starting over.
Yeah, and that's one of the problems that we run into is that we're we're going to go completely to the other end of it as if this is some kind of sacrifice. What we want, our goal and our resolution is some kind of sacrifice. Like if we see it as some kind of sacrifice and some kind of miserable thing that we need to go, live our life beforehand. I also think this way about marriage. Like if you're going to have a marriage and you're thinking, I have to go have my one last hurrah at a massive bachelor party because that's the end of my freedom. Like how are you walking into this marriage? You know what I mean? And so I've that's a whole another thing. But why are we going full out the other direction when we're saying this is what we want, And is that really what we want?
I think at the end of the day, we're just all confused.
Yeah.
And because our body and mind are built for survival, we tend to go to negative things just because that's how we're built.
Indulgence and
absolutely. We just inhale things, not just food, but just everything that brings us pleasure. We're just pleasure-seeking beings, because we do want things that are pleasurable. Yeah. And
there's nothing wrong with that, but
absolutely not.
In a healthy way, it's great.
Absolutely not. And so we tend to avoid the things that are painful. Mm-hmm. So losing weight is painful, right? It means I got to eat less.
It can be.
And we both came from that because I gained, I got up to about 310, 15 pounds roughly, and that was my heaviest. And I realized it was not healthy, and just like yourself, we were talking before that we got on today, how much your knees hurt. I remember my knees hurt less today than they did when I was like 30.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so it's amazing. It's just crazy, to come from that to this point now. But it all became a mind shift. It all became just these small changes, and it's not just one day.
Exactly.
I think the decision happens in one day, but at the end of the day, it's a decision.
It all boils down to the decision, and it's not just a wishy-washy decision. It's like that I am never going to live like this again decision. That's where it starts, and it's got to be that power behind that decision. That's when the real change and growth start. And that decision has to be made on a real premise of you wanting something. Your why. Oh, we're kind of getting into my how to keep, but
we're getting in the tips.
Yeah,
we're almost there. We're about 4 minutes away from the tips.
But I'm just saying, like, it has to come from something deep inside you that is like, this is it. I am done. And the decision based on what someone else thinks, or how you think you should look, or how you think you should feel, or what amount of money you think you should have in the bank, doing it for someone else, someone other than you, and this deep reason why you want it, it's pointless. It's just pointless.
Yeah, well, so the frustrating part about losing weight was that, that starting point, that decision, the ultimate decision to change that.
And you probably had several decisions before that.
Possibly
just tanked.
I
did.
I'll be quite frank and very open and also very disgusting. When I went to the bathroom one time, I did see blood in the stool, and that was one of the things that's like signal. That was a very sharp signal. I'm like, oh shit, I have to do something about this because I don't feel well. It takes forever to get up the stairs. And I'm winded by the time I get to one set of stairs. I have to make a change and realize that I can't just do it overnight. The power of your mind and your brain and every biological function is too overwhelming. Because again, we're pleasure-seeking beings. And so when we see like a double cheeseburger, which was my bane. Double cheeseburgers at Burger King was like the thing for me, and I would sneak away, and I would even do things and have behaviors that would minimize it and mask that I enjoyed double cheeseburgers.
Yeah. And part of that you can't really blame you on. I would say, you could have made the decision, but these fast food industries and a lot of these food industries, they are they're set up to get us addicted, right? So there's an addiction part of that you have to overcome. That's a whole new topic, but I would say that that I had the same thing. I had several times when I made the decision and I started moving in that direction, and then got sucked back into something that was an addiction. It was an addiction to the chemicals and the salts and the sugars that they put into the food, and so the diet part that's a really tough one. The weight loss to overcome. Yeah,
because you and I both experienced that. And as we get into 2022, again, that's a top of mind, I think, with a lot of people, and realizing the truth about food and how they manipulate food for you to eat it. and the marketing, everything else. So, one of the, I will jump in on a tip.
Okay.
One of the things that I did as far as losing weight for the first time, or the process of losing weight, was dissociating from the marketing. Stop watching TV. Stop watching those things that are influential. One of the most addicting things is to watch, whatever Netflix special, and all of a sudden you see a Burger King commercial. You're like, man, I want that burger.
Oh yeah, I just had that happen the other day, and I don't even watch TV, but like occasionally, once in a while, we'll throw a movie on or whatever, and like I saw food on there, and I'm like, oh, I'm hungry. I want to just go do this, and I'm like, wow, that didn't sound like me at all.
Yeah.
I haven't been like that in so long, but that's goes to show you how powerful and how much they put millions of dollars into this type of marketing, so they can manipulate our psychology and our senses to get us wanting these foods.
And it's in every facet of what we do. It's in social media. Yeah. It's in marketing. Everything.
The weight, the fashion, the how you should look. So many things. That's a huge topic.
Yeah. And so we won't get into that today. But I think at the end of it is boiling down to finding what your happiness is. We pick these things like, I'm going to lose weight because I want to feel better. I want to find love. I want to make amends with the family. But it's all to come, and it boils down to finding happiness.
It really does.
So what is happiness to you, Miss?
Happiness is a state of being. It's to me. So are we ready to go into tips yet? Because this kind of leads into one.
Yeah, you can
I have
start
a few.
with your tip.
Okay. So I would say really happiness is about like a feeling that you want to achieve. And it boils down to your why. Like, why do you want this? Why do you want to lose weight? Well, you could get very vague about it. You could get very surfacey about it. I want to lose weight because I want to look good. Okay, well, why do you want to look good? Because I want to feel good. Okay, why do you want to feel good? And so what I suggest is like connecting to your why. Why do you want this goal? Whether it's weight loss, whether it's saving more money, creating a new relationship with your family that it's been troubled. It's like boiling down to this why. And it's not the surfacey why. If you've ever done this exercise, you'll notice that the first few things that you jot down on your why are going to be very canned. They're going to be very what I think I should say, right? I want to look good. I want to feel confident. And then when you really get down to it and you give yourself a few minutes to really dive into that question of your why, you'll get to the bottom of why you really want it. And that's why I think this is a huge tip in sticking to any goal that you set, is boiling down the why. The deep why. Because you've got yourself, your conscious mind is going to say all these things. Well, I want to look good. I want to feel good. I want to have more energy. And then the more you keep writing, I suggest giving yourself 10 minutes to just keep writing all the reasons why. And you'll notice they'll get deeper and deeper. Eventually you get to the real why. Right? I want to have money. Why? So that I can feel security. Why? So that my family's cared for. Why? So then, and you just keep writing. And I did this exact exercise with money, and it ended up, why? Because I don't want to tell my kids no because we can't afford it. I want to tell my kids no because I don't think it's the right thing for them. Why? Because I want to leave a legacy for my family. I don't want my family to pay for my burial. It was like all these deep, like the whys that touch you to the core are going to be the whys that keep you going towards your goal. And so I'd say write your whys down. Yeah. Spend that time to get way deep into your why. And then the core whys, keep those at the top of your mind. So when you're struggling with your goal, you can reconnect to that, Well,
and I think it's keeping that motivation too, right? Because there's so much in your own biology that's against you. Yeah. Because there is that taste. I'm going back to cheeseburgers. Okay. There's that taste of cheese and greasiness that just like fills your mouth and it just goes down your throat. And you're like, oh, there's so much satisfaction that you're fighting biology, right? There's your emotional connection to all those feelings and that dopamine that just shoots in your brain. Exactly. And it's there's so much of the cerebral you that's fighting the visceral you. The mindfulness, the cognitive brain fighting the very barbarian limbic system. Exactly. And there's so much that goes into that to make that change happen. Yeah. Because you can't fight your biology. It's just crazy. You're primed for food, sex, and shelter. Yeah. I mean, that's just who we are.
Well, and the thing is, like, once you get past that initial detox phase of getting out of that sugar, salt, preservative addiction, you can definitely combat that much easier. So I would say like part of it is having a strong enough emotional why that just brings you back to be able to help you combat that. That emotions can overcome anything.
Well,
right?
I think that's what helps with vision boards too.
Oh,
like
yeah,
writing stuff out and actually
absolutely.
putting it up on some sort of screen that you see every
Seeing
day.
it, you feel it, and then all of a sudden you're going, okay, I can overcome this cheeseburger this once.
Yeah.
30 days of that, right? And give yourself some grace if you cave in, but 30 days of that, you are no longer addicted to these things. It's easier to not be so drawn to that cheeseburger, right? Because you're now, the biology is starting to clean itself up. You don't have that physical addiction part to it, and I think that connecting to your why and that feeling of like, this is the life I want. For me, my why around health was to be able to play with my kids and grandkids when I'm older. Yeah. To be able to get out of bed and walk to the bathroom, to not have to be in assisted living, to be able to be independent when I'm 90, to be able to do yoga on the beach when I'm like old and gray. Like those kinds of things really pull me forward to want to stick to that goal of healthy living. For me, my first why was so I can look good, and that was not the why that was deep.
That's all our whys.
Well, but then I got really, really deep into it, and that was part of the journey. And it may be that for you. Maybe you just have a picture of a person in a bikini, or you in your prime time, in your bikini. Like maybe that's your initial why, but I guarantee if you dig into it, it's going to be deeper than the way you look.
Yeah, I want to put that picture up the rock on my refrigerator.
With your face on it?
Yeah, I could do that.
I did that so many times, and it was so discouraging because I knew I would never look like that. Like, I don't have the same body type as a lot of these women.
Is that another thing? Like putting realistic goals.
Being realistic, that's another tip that I have is like, don't, if you have my body type, which is a more athletic build, narrow hips, I'm not an hourglass. I don't have this tiny waist and the big hips. Like I can never gain weight in my butt. Right? I'm never going to look like these girls with the big bubble butts and the tiny waist. I'm just never going to look like that. And that's the pictures I was putting on my fridge. Yeah. What does that do to your subconscious? That's like massive self-sabotage. I'm never going to look like that.
Yeah, if you're brunette, do not put a blonde picture up.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't make sense.
Well, you can dye your hair.
Yeah.
You can't change your bone structure, your body type. So like, really be realistic about it. Like you're not going to save $1 million in a year if you only make $20,000 a year. Like put something realistic up there. Like what's a goal that you can actually attain? Yeah. It stretches you and you can actually attain it, but definitely stretches you, right?
Yeah, and I think people should put somewhat, bigger goals for sure. Yeah. Not lofty necessarily, because the defeatist that comes in, that settles in,
especially if you're just starting.
Yeah, I mean, if you make like $25,000 a year, which is minimum wage, and you're like, I'm going to be a millionaire next year, it's like
your subconscious is going to shut that down.
It could very well happen. I mean, if you win the lottery, but the chances of winning the lottery are pretty minute.
Yeah, and there's that small part of you that has to be able to have a little bit of hope around it, right? Like if I'm like, I make 25, I'm going to make 45 next year. If it makes you cringe a little bit, but you're like, no, but I can kind of see it. Yeah. And I think that's important too, is like being not realistic, but just not necessarily realistic like, oh, I'm only going to do 10, but make sure it stretches you some, right? But keep it within, and like, I'm not going to change body types, right? I'm not going to, my arm is broken and made out of metal. I'm not going to all of a sudden have an arm that's normal and functioning unless I go through, I don't even know if it's possible, but like it has to be. I think if it was possible, it has to be believable to your mind and your subconscious mind. And when you feel that, it's like absolutely no. Back it off a little bit until you're like, maybe, and that's where you need to be, in that like possibility state.
So as we talk a little bit about resolutions, we talk about really the terms of happiness. Do you feel happy?
You know me, I'm happy.
I feel like happiness is momentous, right? It's only momentary. I feel content. I choose content because everything is just where it should be in life. And I'm satisfied, and that hunger isn't there. It's just that full feeling of like, I'm content because the things just happen every day.
I think you're in a surrendered state of happiness. You're good with where things are. You're great with where things are going.
I think I'm happy with my decisions.
Yeah.
I think I'm satisfied with the decisions I made and then the trajectory. Everything may not be going well today. It's not 100% all the time. There's just no way. because those negative feelings, those negative thoughts always kind of seep in somewhere. There's never something that's ever going to be like, oh my God, I am so happy with every single thing that I'm doing right now. Just no, because once you're happy, I think once you satisfy that, like, well,
you want more.
What,
and I think that you're content and my happy are about the same.
Oh.
It's just the words that we choose to use.
Maybe, but I did find this.
I do feel a lot of joy in life day to day. Yeah, simple joy.
I found this this point of happy. So we interrupt your happiness to bring you Monday and regularly scheduled happiness. We'll resume on Friday. So Friday is really happiness at the end of the day.
I don't know. I'm
just kidding. That was just a funny thing. But really what I wanted to show.
It is funny, but that is how most people live.
So what I really wanted to show is happiness is not trying or finding, it's deciding.
True.
And so when I saw this earlier today, this really resonated with everything that has come into my life and everything that I've come across in life as far as finding happiness. It really comes down to a decision. We tend to be mad at people. We tend to be frustrated with situations because we haven't really decided on the trajectory of where we're going with that person or that thing. Yeah. When we're dissatisfied with a career, it's because let's say we go to college for 4 years and we wanted to be that. Like I went to college to be a sociologist. I don't do sociology. There's no career in sociology necessarily, but there's aspects of what I learned that apply today. But you go to school, you spend all that money, you spend all that time to reach a career that just never manifests. And deciding, I'm instead of like being upset and frustrated that I didn't choose sociology as a career. I don't even know what career there is in sociology. That's kind of a wasted degree. But I got a degree, so that is the nice part about it. There's so many people that go to school that don't really do those things that they're intended to do, and once they finish it, it's like, well, I don't know what to do with it. But deciding that that was a learning experience for me. Deciding that everything that I learned is of value and it's applicable to everything that I do. That decision within me is like, okay, I am satisfied with that, and I can move forward with that. But there are so many people that between relationships, leaving a relationship, for instance, not and deciding not to lose weight, all that stuff. But I think one of the big ones is leaving a relationship, deciding whether it's a good investment for you or not. That indecision is really what drives the unhappiness. Yeah.
And I really think that ties very closely to my definition of happiness as a sense of inner peace, regardless of the outer circumstances. Because that only happens when you've decided to change your perspective on the entire situation, on any circumstance. So we're talking the same language, just using different words.
Yes. Mary has a way with that. I will say you can borrow Mary, and she charges $9.99 per month.
It changes every week, so check back for specials.
She charges $1,000 an hour. Just kidding. But no, I mean, really, for me, happiness is really decision. I think people are just so contemplative and so just withdrawn and emotional about things because they haven't decided. They're in the middle of that decision, right? It's like, they're in a relationship because there's so many good things about it, but then there's the bad things that just are very prominent that they just can't lose and let go of because it's just in your face.
It's just like confusion and clarity creates discord, and that can be perceived as unhappiness. Yeah.
And once you decide, and once you figure out the trajectory in the direction you want to go, you'll start to feel better.
Of course.
But because you feel frustrated, because you feel upset, you're always going to be in that state of like indecision. Mm-hmm. But once you decide to move forward, I think you'll start feeling better about your situation and everything moving forward. Mm-hmm. And it goes to everything. When I lost weight, it was a decision that I had to make slowly, and it's small decisions. So instead of like getting, one of the big decisions I used to make was instead of getting 2 hamburgers, maybe I should get 1.
Yeah.
And feel okay with that. Yeah. Instead of getting a whole plate of food, like hamburger, fries, and whatever else, a Coke, maybe I can cut out the Coke. Maybe I can just switch to water and still have that full plate. And then maybe let go of the fries and just have the burger. Yeah. And maybe instead of the whole burger, maybe have, a veggie burger. I don't know, something a little bit, making little decisions over time.
And that comes back to like being realistic.
Yeah.
You know, I used to make the biggest goals when I was doing when I used to do New Year's resolutions, and it would be back when I smoked. I'm quitting smoking. I'm going vegan. Oh yeah, I was a smoker my whole life. Yeah, until
I didn't know this.
Well,
this is a revolution.
A very long time, but I'm going vegan. I'm starting. I'm stopping smoking. I'm going to exercise 6 days a week. You know, it was like, I'm going to set aside this amount of money every week.
That's torture.
It's like, so these massive, like, goals that were not realistic for me. It's like, start with something, because the compound effect, we talk about that a lot. You know, it's the small steps that get you to the end goal that end up being the massive changes in your life. But they start small, just like you with the cheeseburgers 2 to 1 to whatever. I went from, you know, however many sodas a day to however many diet sodas a day to cutting that down to just 1 soda a day to now a soda every, I don't know. Lately it's been a little bit more, but a diet soda every month or whatever, just as a treat, you know? And it's like, you don't have to go boom. It was like me, it was all or nothing. Yeah. It was everything. I'm going to do everything. I'm going to start all these things at once. And that's why we fail. You know, that's a lot of the reason why we set this unrealistic. Yeah,
like we go like, again, going back to the example of losing weight, you know, going to the gym and then trying to do like 50 reps.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
you can't move the next day.
Yeah, and you're like, oh my God, why did I do that? And you're like demotivated.
Yeah, and now I need to reward myself with a pizza because I went to the gym. It's like this whole spiral of just
Isn't that great?
failure.
You know, isn't that great when you on a Friday you're like, shit, I went to the gym for 2 days this week.
Yeah. Well, it's just one of my tips on reward.
But you know, do you have any other tips, Miss? Because we're at the end of the show.
Okay.
Do you believe that?
Do you want me to recap my tips?
Let's recap the tips.
Okay. So my tips. My tips are to stick to the desired changes that you wish for your life. I would say the biggest one is to connect to your why. You know, get really deep into your why. Why do you really want this? Not just the surfacey why, not why other people want it for you, but why do you want this? Get into the feeling of it. When you feel something, then you know it's your why. The second one would be don't beat yourself up, right? And these are in no particular order, but this is a huge one. Just because like what you were saying, you went from the 2 cheeseburgers to 1. You know, if you have a slip up, the more you beat yourself up, the more you're just going to be like, screw it, I might as well do it again. So have some grace with yourself. The second one would be the realistic, or the third, be realistic. I'm not going to put numbers because I have no idea. But be realistic. Don't set audacious goals that your subconscious mind is going to go, no, I can never do that. Yep. Set a goal that stretches you. Go high. And then when that feels completely unrealistic, back it down until it feels like, ooh, that scares me, but I think I can do it, you know? Set realistic goals. The other one would be make a plan, right? You have to have a plan. If I decide I'm going to lose 20 pounds this year, but I have no plan on how I'm going to do it, how am I going to be able to stick to that? You know, you got to plan ahead. You got to make a plan. Maybe buy certain foods, you know, go figure out a nutritional plan, buy the foods that you need, prep those foods, make sure you have them in your fridge for the week, you know, or if it's a savings goal, like how much am I going to save per week? Or if it's a relationship improvement goal, I'm going to have a date with my mom.
Yeah.
Once a month, once every other month, we're going to have lunch. Like, make a plan for these things. Don't just put it out there. You know, you have to have some sort of plan and some sort of roadmap, right? And then the other one is, let me see, rewards. Rewards that support your goal. If you saved $2,000 in the quarter that you achieved, don't make your reward to go buy $1,000 Louis Vuitton purse. Did they cost $1,000 or more? I don't even know. But like,
I don't buy Louis Vuitton.
If your goal was to lose 3 pounds in the month, don't celebrate by having a pizza. Do something else that makes you feel good, that supports your goal, right? So maybe I don't know, going on a road trip or something, you know, I reached this 3 pound, this 5 pound mark. I'm going to go on a road trip and do something that just fuels my soul. I might go buy myself a new outfit, I'm going to go have 5 cheeseburgers and a pizza tonight and some ice cream because I hit my goal, right? So like, reward yourself in a healthy way. I set money aside. I'm going to, you know, go rollerblading or skydiving or whatever, like whatever it is, like something that's not against the goal that you set, and celebrate every little win. That is like massive. every little win in your goal is like, you have to be able to celebrate yourself. I tend to always minimize a lot of my accomplishments. I'm sure you do too, knowing you. And the more that you celebrate those accomplishments, oh my gosh, my pants feel a little better. But the scale doesn't say whatever, but I ate really good all week. You know, I completed this entire week of what I said I was going to do. And celebrate yourself. Give yourself some love, you know. That gives you the ability to keep going, because it's all the little wins. It's that compound effect that the big changes happen because of all these little steps, celebrating steps. And these are all things that help you support those little steps that you accomplish, you know. God, I stuck to my meal plan for a week. Maybe the scale didn't move, but I stuck to it for an entire week. Keep going, right? And the more you celebrate yourself, not beat yourself up, don't reward yourself with a pizza, but just keep going and celebrate it. Reward yourself in a healthy way. I mean, this is how you hit those goals. Sorry, I'm really passionate about this because
I can tell. I didn't want to interrupt at all. The emotion is just like peering over.
Because this is years of trial and error through my own life of like how to actually accomplish something in a way that's gonna stick, you know.
And I will say, through the whole process of losing weight for me, it was making those small changes. Small. And when I got below 300, it was an amazement to me, you know. And just celebrating those small things, like you were saying, is a tremendous feat. Huge. And then when you get down to a more manageable, more realistic weight, you're like, oh my God, I've been on a whole journey. Yeah. You know, and so don't beat yourself up.
You definitely look back and you see a huge change. And I could recommend a book. It would be The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy.
Oh shit! I didn't even bring it up.
Yeah, I didn't. It just came to my head. So we can post it in the comments. But that book brings a lot to
at the end of the show too.
This exact topic. Like it's about the
compound
decisions.
effect.
Yeah, it made a huge difference in my life. It's about making those small decisions that change your trajectory to a whole new life.
So we're here talking about resolutions for next year. There's so many that people make, and I think we kind of like leaned on the weight loss thing a little bit more, just because it's a real experience, I think, for both of us.
It's a huge one.
You know, and when I lost about 90 pounds myself, I mean that is a huge experience, and to go from that to today, and you still deal with those emotions, and it's always very prominent. It's always going to be there, but you know, I sure as hell feel a lot better today.
Yeah,
you know?
and you're maintaining. You might go up and down a little bit, just like I go up and down a little bit. We're not going.
We were there when it's Christmas. I mean,
we're not going.
A lot of cake, a lot of pie.
Yeah, I mean, I would go. Theirs are like 40, 50 pound differences up and down, and it's minimal. So we've done a lot of work on ourselves to be able to go. This is how you do it, right?
And you look great,
you know?
by the way.
And so do you.
Oh, thank you. Hello, thank
just
you.
like The Rock.
Hello.
Even better.
I can do the eyebrow thing too. But we're well past the half hour.
Sorry.
Right? 40 minutes, miss. Can you believe that?
No.
I want to thank everybody. We did kind of chime in on the happiness part because we did have a comment come in over the weekend. How do you find happiness in the storms? So a large part of happiness and resolutions all kind of tie in together. Coming down and finding your happiness is really what's important in our lives and how we feel that we're connected to this life. It all deals with emotions, and that's what we're here to talk about. Is just the emotions and how do we control them and how do we get the most out of this life, and that's why I have Mary here. She's here to tell me what to do. So I want to thank everybody for joining us every week. Last video we hit 11,000 views, which is amazing. We do have great conversations, and that's all based on you guys. So if you guys have any comments or questions, go ahead and drop those in the comment section and we'll get to them every week. That's what we're here to do. We're here to help you help us help you better.
Let's all rise together.
So again, thank you, Miss Mary Van Elstein, for being such the support, and the support. I was trying to find an S word. It's the end of the show. But Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
It's 2022. Thank you all for joining us. We'll see you guys next week on The Inner Journey.